Had a completely different video lined up for today. In fact, I thought it was going to be a slow news week. Well, slow news 10 days if you take it from the end of the Leicester game to the start of the game against Fiorentina. I thought we might be scratching around for stories. Well, no such luck at West Ham, that's for sure. This one's about Declan Rice, and I think maybe a little bit more meat on the bone with this one than some of the more recent Declan Rice stories with regard to a Declan Rice transfer. Basically happened late last night. I think the Daily Express, when they were giving the previews for their morning paper, today's paper, basically went on to say that, well, not only have Bayern Munich made a £95 million, I think is pound rather than euros, £95 million bid for Declan Rice, but, and here was the key phrase, here was the bit that really stood out for me, Rice's team have held talks with Tomas Tuchel ahead of a move to Bayern Munich. Wow. I mean, that's quite precise, isn't it? That's quite exact. It was quite interesting listening to the tittle-tattle. They had a couple of sort of newspaper reviewers, newspaper experts, if you want, reviewing the back pages. And it was quite interesting listening to one of them speaking. One of them was suggesting, he didn't know whether this was just something to drum up a little bit of interest to get Arsenal's bid up. Of course, Arsenal were rumoured to have bid or open bidding at £69 million, which is obviously a derisory sum and nowhere near what we're looking for. But he lacked a little bit of accuracy with what he was saying. He was saying, well, either West Ham sell Declan Rice now or lose him next year for nothing. That wasn't accurate at all. That's because, well, Declan Rice's contract finishes at the end of this season, whereby we then exercise a 2-year option. So I thought, well, if that bit of his information was incorrect, probably his information about the story being fake news, so to speak, was possibly wrong as well. Now, the news emanated from, it wasn't just the Daily Express. The news had also come from Sky Germany, were reporting it. Now, here's what was key. I think the Express were reporting the news of the £95 million bid, but it was Sky Germany and the German media who were reporting that Rice's team had held talks with Tomas Tuchel and Bayern Munich's team. Now, I've got to be honest with you, I mean, I don't follow the European game at all. I didn't even know that Tomas Tuchel was the Bayern Munich manager, so that's how little I know about it. I didn't even know he picked up a new job since he left Chelsea, quite frankly. However, that's the news as it stands at the moment. I did find it really interesting because if West Ham were trying to do a little smoke and mirrors thing and try and drive Arsenal's price up, then we'd just do it via the English media. There's just a little bit too much on this. Now, I've got to be honest with you, if I could choose a club for Declan Rice to go to, obviously I prefer him to stay, if I could choose a club, it would be an overseas one. I don't particularly. It's a bit heartbreaking, isn't it, really, if you see him playing against your team at least, twice a season sort of thing. I think it'd be hard. I don't like Arsenal. I haven't got any particular hatred traditionally for them, but I find them a tough watch. I don't like watching Mikel Arteta. He is the Premier League version of Diego Simeone. I think he's got a touch of the spot brat about him as well. And so I think that would be difficult, I think, for me seeing him playing for Arsenal. Don't particularly want to see him playing for anyone else. Maybe the most palatable is possibly Manchester City. I think it's difficult for anyone to go there. They've got 150 charges pending. What Declan Rice wants to do is win medals. Win medals. You just don't know if you go and join Manchester City, whether those medals are going to be rescinded at some point. Such is the serious nature of some of those charges. So to go abroad, I think would be great to see him go for Bayern Munich. That would be good as well. I'll get to the price bit and the valuation in a second. As far as Declan Rice is concerned, I mean, it sort of ticks the boxes, doesn't it, in terms of him wanting to go and win medals and win trophies. You guaranteed them. It's a bit like Celtic, really, isn't it? Or PSG. You guaranteed them at Bayern Munich. Something like they won 19 of the last 22 or 23 Bundesligas. I think they've just won 11 in a row, albeit tight. Tight went down to the last game of the season, and people may probably suggest that Borussia Dortmund chucked this away. But, it wouldn't be any surprise if Bayern Munich win that league, the Bundesliga, again for the next 10 seasons. It's by and large, most seasons, it's an uncompetitive league, and you know exactly who's going to win it. So I think that'd be a really good one for him to win trophies, no doubt about that. Would he be testing himself every week? Okay, no, maybe not, but they do feature in the Champions League, which is something that he wants, and certainly those games are a test. I also think, if you look at Declan Rice, in his early to mid-20s, whoever he signs for, as long as they're a good club and there's no reason to think that they wouldn't be, he's probably going to be there for the next 7 or 8 years. I think it's highly likely that if he signs for Bayern Munich, that they're going to be in a Champions League final at some point in the next 7 or 8 years. This is exactly why I said a little while ago that Declan Rice's best chance of winning a trophy is this season. And when I say a trophy, I mean a European trophy. It is right now. There are no guarantees unless you go to one of those clubs like PSG, like Celtic. I guess to a degree, Man City, you could suggest that the Premier League's becoming a little bit like that. Paris Saint-Germain, you know what I mean? But in terms of a European trophy, you're just not guaranteed it. Man City have been trying to do it for ages. They might well do it this season, but you just don't know. It's tough. I think Bayern Munich might be as good a choice as any. So, if he could go to Man City, I guess that would be a preferable choice from football in terms that they do have that cloud hanging over them. So it is an interesting one. What is interesting in the reports are suggesting that Bayern Munich are going to bid high. The reason they're bidding high, well in excess of Arsenal's £69 million bid, is to shake things up a little bit. They have to try and do something to distract him or turn his head. Now, making the bid is not going to turn his head. It's giving him the wages and offering him the medals and all that stuff that's going to do it. But it was really interesting to hear that even Bayern Munich think it's almost futile attempting it because they think the player has decided to go to Arsenal. And this is something that I've discussed before. You'd have heard me say this before. This doesn't put us in a great position, so we want this bidding war. It's why Arsenal were trying to lowball us. It's why they're trying to offer sort of 69 million, where it's nowhere near. And you get the impression they won't rest on that. They might come back with a 74, 75 million pound bid, but it's still nowhere near what we want. I think Arsenal are hoping that Declan Rice is going to say to West Ham, no, I want to go there. I only go there. As I mentioned before, it is a gentleman's agreement to sell him. But as I understood it was a gentleman's agreement to sell him for 100 odd million. I might have that wrong. I wasn't in the room. What it definitely wasn't was when this agreement was made 18 months ago, was an agreement to sell him to Arsenal. So I think, bearing in mind we do have 2 years left, and I've said it before, and I know I'm repeating myself here, but if it gets to that point, you know what, if you're dealing with 70 million, I'd rather keep him for another year and then accept 60 million next year, because the reporter that was on Sky Sports News had it wrong. He doesn't walk away on a free next year. That's certainly not the case. So I don't like the game Arsenal played or are playing with this one, and I don't feel that West Ham should allow themselves to be browbeaten into accepting an offer that just undervalues the player. And he's an amazing player. He really is. He's fantastic. He's finished the season so strongly. The other thing that the reporter had suggested was that Declan he said it's the last thing that the West Ham fans need at this moment in time with the Conference League coming up. Well, I'm not worried about us, to be honest with you. We've been dealing with speculation for a long, long time now. This is not going to distract us from the Conference League. But I think it was a case of him suggesting that we would be worried that it might distract Declan Rice. Not even remotely worried about that. Make no mistake about it, Declan Rice is going to be 100% focused on that Conference League final. 100%. He wants to go out on a high. He wants to win a trophy. It's not like Declan Rice is all about trophies but from next season. No, Declan Rice wants a winner's medal. And I say his best chance is this season because he's already in a final. He's going to go for it. Not only does he want to leave on a high, he wants to leave to cement his legacy. He wants to, he wants to leave West Ham with his head held high. By basically saying, part on good terms. There you go, guys. Really nice few years. We've been 10 years. He joined as a 14-year-old, didn't he? So I've had a really nice 10 years at West Ham. Here's my parting gift. I'm gonna lift your first trophy for since 1980, basically. So he's going to be really focused, and he always has been that way. He absolutely has been. He will ultimately make the right decision for himself, and rightly so. He showed that with decision to switch allegiance from Arsenal to England. Was it a ruthless decision? Yeah, I guess it was. Was it? It was just single-minded. It was just the right thing to do. I'm pretty sure he must have loved Ireland. You know, he grew up, his grandfather was Irish, he would have grown up, he's got lots and lots of Irish relatives. I'm pretty sure, you know, Declan Rice loves Ireland. I'm sure he does. I'm sure he was proud to represent them. However, when the opportunity came along to better his chances of operating at the highest level, he left and he represented England in the same way as I think he loves West Ham. I really, really do. He will never go to another club, and I've said this before, and enjoy the adulation he has at West Ham. If he goes to Arsenal, he's not going to be more popular than Saka. He's just not. How could he be? Or any number of players that they might produce. Look, they'll like him, they'll appreciate him, but he's not going to be the main man. Wherever he goes, he's not going to rock up at Man City and be more popular than Phil Foden or Kevin De Bruyne or Haaland. It's just not how it works. Certainly not at these bigger clubs. But he knows that, and he's willing to sacrifice that, and he's ready to do it for trophies, basically. So I just find this really interesting. I do think the bidding has now really started. Really, really started. And I think, reading between the lines, it's going to push... Number one, it's going to push Arsenal into action. Number two, I think it's going to push some of the other clubs who might be dithering, might be thinking about it into action. Because, as I say, he has had a really good end to the season. If you were not sure about bidding for Declan, I think the last 2 or 3 months probably would have convinced you that you should. You've seen the goals, you've seen everything, all facets, all parts of his game. And I think, thirdly, what it might do is by bringing an additional player into the equation, it might stir up the pot amongst some of those other big continental giants. And particularly with Bellingham, looks like he's signing now for Real Madrid. You know, I don't think Barcelona are in a position to do it for financial reasons, but, you know, maybe Paris Saint-Germain or someone like that look at it and think, oh no, maybe we can do something here. I just think it gets interesting. But the main thing, and the thing I really like about it, is, because as you'll know if you watched the video I did a week or two ago, I don't like what Arsenal have done, really. I don't like their tactics with Declan Rice. I don't like it's almost a take it or leave it offer, and you know what, we'll take him anyway because he only wants to come to us. You know what, Arsenal are not the be-all and end-all. They've done very, very well this season. There's no doubt about it. They look to be improving, but they won nothing. They've won nothing. And I do wonder if you are Declan Rice, he hasn't grown up with an allegiance for Arsenal. He was a Chelsea fan. He hasn't. And if you're looking at it, if what you genuinely want is a club that can guarantee you trophies... I mean, come on, let's be perfectly honest. There's probably 10 clubs in European football that can guarantee Declan Rice trophies long before Arsenal can.